The Flash, Barry Allen, gets trapped in a Bronze Age nightmare, only it's not his own.
What is that?
Hi, me from the future. Yes, my hair is sticking up. I didn't see it in the monitor while I was filming, but I see it now. Not gonna lie, I laughed pretty hard when I saw it. Is there anything more casual than that? Probably, but this is up there. I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics, and today we're gonna do a casual comic catch-up.
Ketchup? Ketchup?
This is a series where we're gonna look at issues that don't really warrant a fully in-depth, microscopic kind of video, but they're interesting and I wanna talk about them anyway. The story in question we're gonna be looking at comes from Adventure Comics 460 from the year 1978. This is a comic from the Implosion era of DC where lots of things were canceled, so they're folded into one title. You'd have these anthology type titles with just lots going on. And Adventure Comics was already kind of an anthology title anyway, but there are so many stories in this. You get so many heroes to choose from, 6 stories. The one we need is the first, The Flash, A Nightmare to Remember. It's by Cary Bates with art by Herb Novick. Inks Frank McLaughlin, colors Gene D'Angelo. We've talked about a bunch of Cary Bates comics on this channel. Just when we're talking about this era, we did the entire Supergirl series that he did, a retrospective on that. That was a lot of fun. More recently, we did that comic from the Legion where there was that character who had a head that looked like a certain thing. Did a whole video about it. Hi, Anti-Led. Now, I know Adventure Comics 460 is kind of a random issue to be spotlighting, and so how did this happen? Well, back in the day, when Comixology lived and it was a solid interface, it wasn't the best, but it was pretty good, and you could just get a bunch of digital comics more easily than you can right now, time of recording. They would have these giant sales where everything was $1. It would happen fairly frequently, so if you just waited, you could get a whole bunch of digital back issues for $1.
I'd buy that for $1.
I would get random ones, just whatever caught my fancy, or even sometimes just ones that didn't, because you never know what's on the inside. And that is how I ended up with Adventure Comics 460. And here's the thing that I need to admit. There were times where I would buy a bunch of these and not get to them for several months or years. But once I got to it, I kept rereading it and I wanted to share it with all of you in some capacity, and I think I finally found how. We're just gonna talk about it, and one of the interesting things that it made me think about when it comes to comic book reading. But this story is about Barry Allen, the Flash of Earth 1, because we're talking about a pre-Crisis and Infinite Earth story. So we're talking about one of those stories where Barry Allen goes to visit Jay Garrick on Earth 2, and they're hanging out. But we're coming in at the end of this. They're done, they're racing back, Barry's supposed to go home, they're having banter, ooh, who's the fastest? And they go to one of those vibrational points where they can transition in between worlds. Only instead of going to the one that Barry normally goes to, they go to the one that Jay normally goes to, because why not? Switch it up. They're closer there anyway. Side note, I like that this story is labeled as an offbeat super speed adventure, unlike all those other adventures they have, which are on beat. I know offbeat is an expression. I know, it just makes me chuckle on the inside. Like many things, you gotta find the joy in life where you can. Till next time, Barry, and don't forget to kiss Iris for me. We'll do right after I finish kissing her for me. So Barry starts to spin really fast to get into the right vibrational mode to get back to Earth 1, but something goes awry and he's knocked out and he wakes up, and it seems like he didn't leave. He's still in Keystone. What's going on? He's trying to get back to Central. So he decides, well, you know what? He'll go back and talk to Jay. They're both scientists. They can figure this out together. And while he's running back, he spots the Shade in a panel that ensured for me that this was going to become one of my favorite issues. I'm not sure why. There's just something about the Shade bending over to get to this drinking fountain that I just find so endearing. It's such a silly thing, but it's just, I don't know. I'm talking about the Shade. I remember Jay telling me about the crimes their eyes been on since the breakup from prison. So the Shade would battle both versions of the Flash. And at this point in history, we're way before his origin reboot that's gonna happen in the 90s. But his reboot is one of those things that you can actually apply it backwards fairly well. So this Shade is not an immortal being who is linked to the shadows and all of that stuff, but just a guy who decided to wear this specific outfit with a cane that shoots out shadows he can control. And the reboot had become an immortal who could wield shadows and who would do battle with the Flash of this era for fun. And this retcon still works in this story because you could just make it so that people don't know the truth about his powers and his origins, and he's just playing them. And that slots in very well with the characterization that he has in this era, which you're about to see, because Barry just straight up confronts him saying that's the last water fountain drink he'll enjoy. I hope you enjoyed your drink, Shay, because your next glass of water will be from the faucet in your cell. Well, well, if it isn't my old friend, the Flash. I assume you want to fight for old time's sake, so I'll be glad to oblige. And this brings me to what I wanted to talk about, which is depending upon when you're coming to issues and the canon you're familiar with and what you're bringing to a story, it completely alters how you read it. Because for me, after coming from the Shade #3 issue from 1997, wherein it was established that the Shade and Jay Garrick are low-key friends and that sometimes they will just fight for fun, this seems entirely normal. And so some of the nightmarish aspects of it aren't fully landing for me in the same way they might have had I not been coming from already having read that. The Shade here just sounds like he's having a great time battling an old friend, and that slots in so well with the modern canon. They didn't call me the Duke of Darkness for nothing, old friend. Oh, he turned the Flash into a silhouette. So as all of this is going on, Barry is not fully paying attention because he is going so hard. He full on throws the Shade into a wall, making it look like he's gonna kill him, but he actually vibrated him so fast that he goes through it, but that's a lot. Barry has no chill here. But once he gets them to the police, they're very cordial and he's confused as to why they're being so nice to him, but it turns out they're not being nice to him at all. It's to the Shade, who's the mayor of Keystone. A nightmare. Surely that's no surprise to you, Jay. After all, I don't think I could have won the election without your help. The Flash is all, I don't want to believe what I'm seeing. And there's this hilarious poster that they've apparently still left up. I guess he was elected recently, of him endorsing, or him, Jay Garrick, endorsing the Shade because everybody thinks that he's Jay. Jay Flash Garrick says, vote the Shade for mayor of Keystone City for no reason except that I said so. I really think it was your endorsement that gave me the crucial edge I needed, old friend. And when Barry asks who he was running against, he said that it was Solomon Grundy and that when he lost, he ate the podium. Everything about this is great. So all this is tripping Barry up. He just leaves mid-conversation. He decides to go and try and find Jay because that will fix things. But when he gets to their house, Joan is there and things are super sketchy. Joan is Jay Garrick's wife. I've got to talk to Jay right away. Is he here? He is now, you jokester. You and that crazy sense of humor of yours, Jay. You'd think I'd be used to it by now. Oh no, she's doing it too. What a tender scene, I must say, darling. It's very touching to see you're still so fond of your ex-husband. What is our young son supposed to think when he sees his mommy making so much fuss over another man? That's right. Joan's married to the Fiddler, and they have a son. But it's quite clear that she seems to still either be cheating with Jay or willing to. Just so much melodrama. It's just bringing me so much joy. You've got to accept it eventually, Jay. It's been over 6 years since our divorce and my second wedding day. Was it the same day? That's phrased like it's the same day. At least I gave her a little son, Garrick. That's more than you did. Wow, that's actually really awful. And again, it's coming from that standpoint of being more familiar with the modern canon, where it had been established that Jay and Joan didn't have kids because they couldn't. They've retconned that lately, but at the time, that's what was going on. And so that hurts. That hurts so much, especially because it is revealed what is going on. And that's that this was a trap that was left for Jay by the Wizard. And apparently he pulled these concerns out of Jay's subconscious. I can see the concerns about worrying that maybe Joan would leave him. Not that their relationship isn't solid, but it's a subconscious concern that I could see being there. I'm not sure why he would be worried that it would be the Fiddler specifically. Maybe that's just the Wizard taking some creative liberties. Maybe the artist just wanted that image of the little boy there practicing the fiddle, because of course he is. I'm less seeing Jay's concern about the Shade running for office, but it's there and he's concerned about it on some level, I guess, maybe. Okay, so what happened? What this is that when Barry went to vibrate back from the spot that was Jay's, there was a trap there so that he never actually was transported anywhere at all, but was put into like a magical coma thing, and his body's still there and he's trapped in this nightmare. But the nightmare was tailor-made for Jay, so it's not really landing in the same way for Barry. Also, the Wizard isn't actually there to tell him that. He left a pre-recorded message. That's a lot of confidence. Now, stories in these anthology type books are shorter, so Barry just figures this out very quickly. He solves this very fast. He's the fastest man alive after all. He just goes and they explain like, oh, I just need to change my vibrational frequency to match Jay's, and then that will break out of it somehow. Then I'll be free and I'll be able to transport back to Earth 1, and it works. And womp womp, he gets back and he's late for what he was gonna do with Iris. And I have a question. Is he ever gonna tell Jay about that, or is this one of those things you just shouldn't talk about? He's just gonna keep those concerns in his back pocket for if they ever come up someday and Jay wants to talk about it. This is one of those cat in the hat questions, like what would you do if your mother asked you? Would you talk about this? If you ended up in someone's nightmare realm and you saw all of these interesting concerns, would you be like, hey, You need to talk, you okay? The Fiddler, huh? It's kind of okay to be friends with the Shade. So yeah, this issue wasn't worth any in-depth, deep analysis, but I just found it fun and I wanted to share it with you. I just wanted to ask, have you ever had a moment like that where the things you've read have greatly influenced what you are reading from the past? It just made it come across entirely differently. If that has happened to you, what was it and what was the effect? Now there are other stories in this. There is a Dead Man story, an Orion and the New God story, a Wonder Woman story, and the ones that I remembered and made more of an impression on me were the Aquaman anti-whaling story, and then there was a Hal Jordan story from his space trucking era, or rather when he was a trucker, and then he would have to go do Green Lantern things, and occasionally the truck would end up getting roped in too. That's actually one of his more competent stories though. It's one of those ones where he's using the ring to the max of its terrifying ability, where he creates like an energy duplicate of himself, and there's a whole bunch of stuff happens there. But meanwhile, he needs to get back to his truck. He's late. Hal's had lots of jobs. See, this is why it's so hard to remember Hal for the planes he flew. He's done so many other things. This was the first casual comic catch-up. Do you like just talking about issues sometimes? They're not all going to be positive, obviously, because sometimes it's just what even is happening? I had fun. I hope you did too. If you did, let me know by leaving a like, leaving a comment, doing all the YouTube things. Give me some suggestions of issues that you think I would enjoy or not enjoy, or you just like to talk about on this channel. It's a good time. Thanks so much for taking some time today to spend discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Do not worry, this does not mean that we're not still going to do our in-depth things. I am working on going through the subplot that was Stargirl and Captain Marvel / Shazam in JSA. It's very interesting. Looking forward to sharing it with you. And yeah, enough rambling. I'll see you again when I see you with whatever video that is. Bye-bye.